Good morning to everyone. Welcome to Android Training Development, Session 1. My name is Sharath and I work on backend, AWS and Azure and also on the mobile app development like Android and Windows platform along with the Xamarin. So before we start with the today's session, I would like to know about yourself, like do you know what is the concepts that you are knowing, like whether you know Java language which is primarily required for development of Android. So can you just say whether everyone knows Java language? Can you please reply in the chat window? How comfortable you are in Java language? Is everyone comfortable in Java language? Okay, what about others? I think there are few. I think there are few other students. Can you please confirm, like, what is the status of your Java in? Anyways, if you're not familiar with Java, you can always start reading the language. It is almost the same as your C and C++ language, but it is not the same, but there are more features compared to the C and C++. But if you know C and C++ language, I think it will be easy for you all to learn the Java language. It's not compulsory that you need to learn C and C++, but if you have the knowledge of the two languages, it is more easy to understand the Java language. The reason why I'm stressing more on Java language is because in Android training development, we use Java language. So whatever you do, you need to write the Java code. So you need to be comfortable in the Java language. It's not that you need to be in depth in the language. If you know the basics, it's more than sufficient. Basic concepts of OOPS, object-oriented programming, your inheritance, abstraction, your interfaces concept, your classes concept, how to declare an object, your basic Java programming. It is more than sufficient for Android training development, Android development. So simultaneously, when you're learning Android, try to focus even on Java. Probably you can spend some time on Java as well as on the Android. So we'll start with the first unit, Introduction to Android. So the following options can be used to make the session more interactive. You can use the chat window for asking questions, for for interacting with the faculty. And if you have any questions, you can use the Q&A window. And if you have any query to be asked, you can raise an hand. Or else you can use the chat window to interact with me. For any other assistance, you can call for this WebEx helpline number. So this is webinar 1. There are almost 16 to 17 units which we'll be covering, as the sessions go on. Probably each and every day we might be covering around 2 to 3 units depending upon the concept, how easy or vast it is. Because few topics might take more time, few topics might take less time. So depending upon that one, we keep going. So introduction. In this unit, you will learn about Android, installation of software and Android components. Objectives. At the end of this unit, you will be learning about Android versions, code names and API, architecture of it, core building blocks of Android, installing software and Android emulator. Okay, can you please tell which Android devices you people are using? Can you please reply, can you please reply which Android devices are you using, or any other platforms like iOS or Android or Windows? Android Marshmallow. Fine. So most of you might be familiar about the Android, right? So it is a product which is being developed by Google, and also it is based on the Linux kernel. So most of you might be using Android devices, right? Android smartphones. Nowadays, even Android smart watches come, Android TVs come. There are a lot of devices which are dependent on Android. I mean, most of the devices use the Android operating system. And the most is the smartphones. So Android is a mobile operating system currently developed by Google. It is based on the Linux kernel and designed primarily for touchscreen mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets. It's been primarily targeted for smartphones and tablets. Android's user interface is based on direct manipulation using touch gestures that loosely correspond to real-world actions such as swiping, tapping, and pinching. I think you might be familiar with these three concepts, right? Swiping, like you swipe on the screen; tapping, you click on the screen. Usually they say click or tap. Both are give the same meaning. So tapping or clicking, in the sense, it's when you click on a button, you click on some, you do some actions and you click on the buttons in the mobile, right? So that is the tapping. Pinching, you zoom the images, right? So that is nothing but the pinching. You usually zoom the images. So that is called as pinching. So basically you do these three interactions, right? Swiping, tapping and pinching to manipulate the on-screen objects. On-screen objects in the sense, whatever you see in the app. See, for example, when you open the WhatsApp and when you type some message, how do you send that message to your, to your contacts, to your friends? You usually click on the send button, right? So only then the message will go. So that is nothing but the on-screen object. You are interacting with some kind of objects present inside the apps. And also you will be using the virtual keyboard. Sometimes you might interact with the keyboard, or sometimes you might interact with the apps. In addition to touchscreen devices, Google has also developed Android TV for television, Android Auto for cars, and Android Wear for wrist watches, each with a specialized user interface. So this television for cars, Android wrist watches, all these are separate devices which also use the Android, but with a different user interfaces. As of 2015, Android has the largest install base of all operating systems. Of all operating systems, in the sense, your Symbian, your Windows, your iOS, compared to those things, Android has the largest base. Some of the features of Android. Android source code is released by Google under open source licenses, which means anyone can customize the Android platform. So anyone can customize the Android platform. The meaning of the statement is, see, Google releases this entire source code for the Android operating system, so that can be taken. So anyone can take the source code of the Android operating system, customize the source code of it, and implement it on the devices. So that's what each and every mobile vendors will do. For example, like Samsung, Sony, LG, see all these people, they take the Android source code, they customize the operating system however they want, and then they deploy it on the device and sell it. So that's the reason you might have seen different devices have different styles. For example, if you see iOS or Windows, you might not see any differences. Sorry, you might not see any differences, right? All the iOS devices or all the Windows devices have the same style. They don't have much design changes, right? But if you see the Android devices, each and every Android device might have a different style. Like for example, if you open the Samsung device, if you open the LG device, if you open the Motorola, Micromax, all these devices have different styles. It's an Android operating system, but slightly you might see the user interface changes over there on the home screen or somewhere over there, right? Because someone in the sense that Samsung or whoever is it, they have taken the source code of the Android and they have customized the source code and deployed it. So that's the reason you can see the differences between different devices. So that's the reason the first point states that anyone can customize the Android platform. Android provides many interesting features like weather details, opening screen, live RSS feeds, etc. Android supports for messaging services like SMS and MMS. Android supports SQLite storage. This SQLite storage will be seeing probably in the 4th or 5th session, which is related to your storage concept. Like how you store the data in the mobile device using the database concept. For example, WhatsApp is the right. You do all your chats. Once you close the app and switch off the GPS, switch off the internet, and again when you turn on the internet, switching off the internet of your device and opening your WhatsApp, you'll be able to still see the messages, right? Because all your chats are being stored inside the database, inside your device. Basically your offline concept, still the apps work. It's because the data is stored locally. So that is what nothing but SQLite storage, which we'll be seeing probably in 4th or 5th session. Android supports connectivity like GCM, CDMA, it has Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, media and handset layout. See, apart from these features, you might also get the camera features, all these things. All these features are dependent on the mobile providers. Mobile providers like Samsung, Nokia, Motorola, all these people. Each and every devices might have different configurations. So these are the versions, code names and the API. So you can see there are starting from the version 1.5, which is the Cupcake and which is the API version, and the latest one is the NuGet package, which is the API level 24 with 7.0. See, someone said they were using Marshmallow, right? So your version is 6.0 with the API version at 23. So likewise, if you see the Lollipop, it has a version of 5.0 and 5.1 with the API level as 20, 21 and 22. For people, for normal people, they can remember only version and the code names, right? But they can't remember the API version because API version is more or less related to your developers. It's more related to the developers, but not for end users. For the end users, they usually remember only lollipop. Maybe some people might also remember the version numbers. Like they might say, I have lollipop 5.0 version or 5.1 version, something like that, right? So whenever you are developing the Android application, you need to be familiar with these things. For what version numbers, APIs you are targeting your apps. So you don't. It's not necessary that you need to remember all these things. Probably you can remember the latest version numbers like 6.0, 7.0, from 4.4 to 7.0. Probably you can remember these things. It's not necessary, but just to have some general knowledge, you can remember these things. Or else, as you keep developing the applications, probably you will come across all these things so that you'll remember these. So Android architecture. So this is the Android architecture. So here you have the application framework. I'll be going step by step. Here you have the application framework. The application framework is used most often by the application developers. The developer API is mapped directly to the underlying hardware abstraction layer interfaces and can provide helpful information about implementing the drivers. Usually the application framework is nothing but the apps which you are developing, right? You use the built-in library which is being provided by the Android framework, right? Android framework provides a lot of libraries to interact with. For example, camera or audio driver or video driver, whatever is it. They give you a lot of libraries, right? So you interact with those libraries, right? So that libraries indirectly it communicates with the HAL. For example, if you ask from your applications or from your app, if you ask for you want the audio related or graphics related or camera related, this will interact with the HAL, which is nothing but the hardware abstraction layer, which contains all these libraries. Fine. And when it is passing through all these things, it will go from binder IPC to Android system services and over here, and then finally it reaches to the HAL. So what we need to do is we just need to call the libraries. So that libraries interact with the HAL or other services. So that's what they are saying over here. The developer API is mapped directly to the underlying hardware abstraction layer interfaces and can provide helpful information about implementing the drivers. So they have all these features provided in the HAL, which is nothing but the hardware abstraction layer. It's more or less than hardware. So this will help you to interact with the hardware using the application libraries provided by the Android framework. The second one, the binder IPC process communication. The binder interprocess IPC is nothing but interprocess communication. It is a mechanism which allows the application framework to cross-process boundaries and call into the Android system services code. See, you have all these Android system services, right? Like audio flinger, camera service, media player service. These are all the services provided by the Android framework, right? So to interact with all these things, you need to use the binder IPC. I mean, it's not that you need to use the binder IPC when you invoke those libraries, like when you invoke the camera related or media player related or window related or search related, the binder IPC will take care of interact with the system services. What you need to do is just call the libraries. That libraries will That libraries will interact with the IPC and then it will interact with the system services. So we don't need to worry all these things. All we need to do worry is call the libraries and get the results from it. That's it. Very simple. The next one is functionality exposed by the application framework API communicates with system services to access the underlying hardware. So this point is same as, this point is almost related to your IPC. Your IPC will help the application framework, simple. Your IPC will help your application framework to interact with the system services. I repeat once more, your IPC will help your applications to interact with the system services. Next, you have the HAL. The hardware abstraction layer defines the standard interface for hardware vendors to implement and allows Android to be platform agnostic about the lower level driver implementation. It's not platform agnostic, it's just agnostic. So HAL will provide you the standard interfaces for hardware vendors. For hardware vendors, in the sense, anyone can implement their own camera related or audio related hardware over there. See, for example, if you see the Samsung or Sony or LG, each and everyone's camera or audio or video might be slightly different, right? Each and everyone will have some slightly different resolution, right? So Google or Android will take care of all these things. You implement whatever hardware you want, it doesn't matter, but you implement whatever hardware you want, everything will be taken care by the Android operating system, because the drivers are common for all the hardware. So each and every mobile device provider can create their own hardware. They don't need to worry about the other things. Android operating system will take care of all those things. So that's the reason they are saying the hardware abstraction defines a standard interface for hardware vendors. Hardware vendors in the sense your Samsung, LG, Nokia, to implement and allows the Android. So the next one is Linux kernel is responsible for device driver, power management, resources, etc. Linux kernel, you might have heard about the Linux operating system, right? So it has a kernel concept, which is the main core of the operating system. So this kernel is responsible for all the device driver, power management, resources, and other things. So it will take care of all these things. Next is the core building blocks. So the core building blocks or fundamental components of Android are, you have these components: activity, view, intent, service, content provider, fragments, Android manifest XML, and Android virtual device. So these are the core building blocks of Android. I'll just give you a short description of each and every point, as well as we'll be going in depth with each and every concept, probably in this session and other sessions. So first one is your activity. See, activity is nothing but a page. Actually, we shouldn't call it as a page. The right word to be used is the activity. But you can consider as activity to be as the page, where you design and write the code. In activity, you have the XML design page and Java code. You have the XML design page and the Java file where you write the Java code. Fine. For example, you might consider an HTML page. In HTML page, you write all the HTML code, right, where you can design using the HTML language. Likewise, if you want to write any code, you use the JavaScript or jQuery or any other client-side languages, right? Likewise, even in activity in Android, activity is nothing but it has two pages. One, I mean, we shouldn't call it as two pages, but just for your understanding, I'm using these terms, pages. So, activity has two concepts or two files in it. One is your design file and one is your Java file. One is your XML file, which is nothing but the design file, and one is the .java file, where you write the Java code to interact with the design. So activity has two pages, two files, nothing but the design file and the coding file. So what is the purpose of using these two files? Right, you might get this question, what is the purpose of using these two files? One is design and one is Java code. The reason is, for example, in your design, you might put a button over there. Fine, you might put a button. When you click on the button, sorry, when you click on the button, there should be some action, right? Like when you click on the button, some action should be performed, right? So for doing that action, what do you need to do? You need to write some code, right? Where do you write the code? You need an appropriate Java file which can interact with the design file. So you can make use of the Java file to write the code. So whenever the user clicks on the button, we can use the Java file to write the code. You can write a function. I'll be showing you these things later. You can write a function, and inside this function you can write the code. So whenever the user clicks on the button, that particular piece of Java code is called. Fine. Next is the view. View is nothing but a part of activity. You might have heard about the frames concept or iframes concept in HTML, right? Basically embedding multiple pages inside the page. Embedding or putting the other pages inside the same or different pages. It's basically you're putting multiple pages inside a page or multiple views inside a activity. Fine? Or else you can call it as a piece of code inside the activity. Next is the intent. See, for example, in your WhatsApp, you have different screens, right? You have home screen, you have chat window, you have settings, you have about us, you have location. There are a lot of screens, right, in your WhatsApp, right? But how do you navigate from one screen to other one? Navigate in the sense, how do you take the user from one screen to the other screen? That is using the intent library. So making use of this intent library, you can navigate the user from one screen to the other screen. Services, there are a lot of services. For example, I just give one example. You can consider a background services. You might be running a lot of background services, right? So that can be considered as one of the background services. For example, you have a Skype app, right? Skype or WhatsApp, other apps are there, right? So those apps keep running in the background. Immediately when you get a message or immediately when you get a Skype call or whatever is it, the background job will capture that one and it will open your app or notify you. Fine? It keeps running in the background. As soon as some, as soon as some message or WhatsApp call or Skype call, whatever is it, if it comes, it will capture those appropriate ones which is related to it and it will notify you. So even though the apps are closed, the background services keep running and that will be managed by your Android operating system. Because in sometimes if the battery power goes down or you might have only 5 or 10%, in that case what Android operating system does is it will disable all the background jobs. You might have observed this one, right? So those are all nothing but the services. There are a lot of other services, but for time being you can understand this one. The next one is your content providers. For example, content provider is nothing but you have your contact app, right? You have your contact app. So you can call these content providers inside your app to get the information. For example, you can get the contacts inside your app. So whatever contacts are stored in your device, you can fetch those contacts inside your app using these content providers. Fine. Next are the fragments. In earlier I said that in HTML you have the iframes or frames concept, which is used for embedding one page inside the other page. Likewise, you have fragments over here. So you can put multiple fragments inside the activity. Fine. Next is the Android manifest.xml file. Android manifest is the important file in the Android operating system. This is the first file that will be invoked by the Android operating system. So whatever features, whatever activities you are using in your app, you need to mention all those things inside your Android manifest. And even the permissions. For example, if you want to access the memory card of the Android device, or else if you want to access the internet, if you want to access the GPS, you should take the permission from the Android operating system. Fine. So all those permissions needs to be specified inside the Android manifest. And also inside your app, you might have the login screen, logout screen, register screen, home screen, right? So all these are nothing but the activities. So all these activities declaration should be made inside the Android manifest. So whatever activities are present inside your app, all those activities needs to be present inside your manifest file. So that once the app launches, the Android operating system will know that these are the activities present inside your app. The next one is your AVD, Android Virtual Device, which is basically used for testing your Android applications on your system. Not everyone might have the Android devices, right? So in that case, you can make use of these emulators or AVDs. So few things we'll be seeing it later in depth. So you can download the Android Studio from these links. So before you download the Android Studio, make sure you have downloaded the Java JDK, which is used for running the Java applications. So you can just go for this, copy paste the link. You have the latest, download the latest version. See, you can from the Java SE development kit, you can download the appropriate ones. So click on the accept agreement and select any one of the options. If you're using Windows or Linux or Mac, whatever version numbers it is, download the appropriate one and install. Fine. After downloading the Java SDK, you download the Android Studio. You can go for this link. So here you have the download for Android Studio for the Windows version. So you can download this Android Studio. Fine. So you can download both the software from these links. Is everyone installed the Java JDK? Can you please confirm if everyone is installed the Java JDK or Java SDK? Are you able to run the applications? Are you able to run the Java applications? I'm not speaking about the Android applications, Java applications, Java programs. So you need to follow, once you install the software, okay, once you download the Java SDK and once you install the software, you need to confirm whether Java is installed properly or not. So what you can do is, you can go for the command prompt. You can go for the command prompt. Here you can observe this one. You can, okay, before that, once you have installed the Java software, you need to right click on the properties, go for an advanced system settings. In that you will be able to see this environmental variables, right? So just open this. You need to go for your C drive. C drive in the sense wherever you have installed the Java software. Usually your Java software will be installed inside your program files. Inside your program files, inside your C drive, inside your program files, you should be able to see this Java folder. So inside this Java folder, you might have JDK 1.7. If you have installed JDK 1.8, it's fine, no issues. Whatever versions you have installed, go into that one. You might see JRE and JDK. So go into the JDK, and again into the JDK, you should be able to see this bin folder. Go inside this bin folder, and here you should be able to see this Java. See, this Java file should be there, this Java C should be there. So copy the path of this. Copy this path. Come back for your environmental variables. How do you come over here? Right click on the My Computer, Properties, Advanced System Settings, Environmental Variables. Inside System Variables, you should be able to see this path variable. So click on this path variable, click on this edit. Here I already have this path put over here, so I don't need to put it once more. I'll be getting error. So make sure this path is present inside your device. I mean inside your laptop or desktop, whatever is there. If it is not there, at the end you put a semicolon and see, for example, like this. Here now that path is not there in this my system, right? So at the end I'll put a semicolon, and whatever path I've copied over here, I'll copy this path and I'll paste it over here. So once you paste it, click on OK. Fine. I won't click on OK because I had already put the link over there. So click on OK. Click on OK over here, and again click on OK. You might need to restart your system. It's okay. You just restart your system. Once you restart your system, come for command prompt. Open your command prompt. Fine. Open your command prompt and type Java C. Once you type the Java C and press enter, you should see all these options. It will give you some kind of options over there. That you don't mind what those things are. Fine. So once you get all these things, it means that Java is installed. After that, type Java. So first type Java C. If you get this kind of output, next you type only Java and press enter. Again you should be able to see the similar kind of output. Fine. So if this is working, it means that your Java software is installed successfully and you can run your Java applications. Fine. So just confirm with this one. If you want to exit, you can type the exit. Did everyone confirm this one? Did everyone understand how to install this Java JDK or SDK? Make sure you follow whatever I told now. After this, you should download the Android Studio, or download both the software simultaneously. So, but first install the Java JDK. After installing, confirm if Java is installed properly or not. After that only install the Android Studio. Fine. After that only you install the Android Studio. So I'll just show you. I have some few images which I've captured. So I'll show you those images. Android installation images. So, okay, as everyone installed Android Studio? Okay, if you have not installed, you can probably take a look at it. So, once you download the Android Studio, and when you double click on the icon, you should get this first window like this, right? Next, you click on the next button. You select all these three options. Click on next. See, most important thing is you'll see this Intel HAX, right? So if you need to make sure this HAX is being enabled in your BIOS. Fine. Next, click on next. Select all the three options and click on next. Next, click on agree. Again, click on agree. Again, select the location where you want to install. I would suggest you not to change the location. Let it install in the C drive itself. Fine. And it's not compulsory, but just to be at the safer side, let us install in the C drive itself. So click on next. If you have enough RAM, you can custom it, or else you can go for the recommended one for the emulator. And make sure that you have enabled this Intel Hardware Accelerated Manager HAXM for the emulator. If you don't have your Android devices, then you need to make use of the emulators. But remember, Android emulators are quite slow. They take more memory. So I would suggest you to run your Android applications on the Android devices. Fine. It's not compulsory, but my suggestion is you run your Android applications on your Android devices. If you don't have Android devices, you run it on the emulators. Fine. And if you want to open the emulators, then you need to enable this HAXM. You might have this option in the BIOS. Once you start the system, you get this BIOS, right? So go into the BIOS and enable this HAXM. So again, click on install. So once you click on install, it will start to install. Probably depending upon your system speed, it might take around 15 to 20 minutes. And also it will download few libraries, packages, everything. So once everything is completed, it will give this message, setup was successfully completed. Click on next. So once you get this window, click on finish. Fine. After clicking on finish, you might get this window only for the first time. So select any one of the options and click on OK. If you have already installed the Android Studio earlier, and if you are installing it once more, then click on the second one, or else click on the first one. If it is a fresh installation, let the second one be selected. If you get this kind of window, just give allow access. It's basically you're giving permission for your Android Studio. Next, after this, it will download the necessary components. Fine. So it might take some amount of time, but don't disturb that one. Let it install. Here it's downloading the SDK platform 6.0 API 23. So all your necessary libraries will be downloaded and installed. Your Android 6.0 or 7.0 or whatever is it. It will download the latest libraries and it will install. So this might again take some amount of time, and you need to make sure that you have internet connection while this is going on. Fine. here it's downloading all these components and it's showing what is the thing which has been installed. So after everything is completed, click on the finish button. So once you click on the finish button, you'll get this welcome to Android Studio, where you can start creating a project or open an existing project, which I'll be showing you later. Fine. So I'll be sharing you these images at the end of the session. So this was about the installing the software. Next, Android emulator. Android emulator is used to run, debug and test the Android application. If you don't have a real device, it can be the best way to run, debug and test the application. It uses an open source processor emulator technology called as QEMU. Fine. So in Android Studio, for enabling this emulator, you need to go for an Android Studio, Tools, Android, AVD Manager and create the emulator. I'll be showing you the steps when I open the Android Studio and start creating the applications. Fine. So this is basically used for creating the emulator. So here I've given the snapshots, probably you can just take a look at it. So once you click on the Android emulator, you'll get this kind of option. So here you can select any one of the emulators. See, by default it has selected Android 6.0 with Nexus 5. So if you don't want this Nexus 5 and Marshmallow, you can click on this change button and change the devices. Fine. Select this. If you want to give a name for it, you can give a name and click on the finish button. Fine. So just to give a recap of what we saw, Android is an open source mobile operating system. The software needed for Android application development is SDK bundle with Android Studio and Java JDK. The code, it's basically you need the Java SDK and Java SDK or JDK or Android Studio for developing the Android applications. The core building blocks of Android are activity, intent, service, content providers, fragments and manifest file and the AVD. So you can test your application by using the Android emulator. Do you have any doubts related to this topic? Do you have any doubts related to your topic? Okay, you have installed Java, but what? You want to install Android Studio? The command doesn't close properly. I mean, I didn't get you what is the command. You mean that you have, it shows some error. What kind of error it is? Did you follow whatever I said? Did you type Java C and Java? Did you get any errors over there? It means that Java is installed properly. Are you trying to run a Java program? Did you run some sample Hello World Java program and see whether the program is running successfully? So it means that everything is proper. Probably there might be some issue in your Java program. You need to check with the errors, what kind of error it is. See, if you have tested your Java sample program and if it is running properly, then it is installed properly. You know, if you have any errors, then you need to check for the errors. You see, when it shows the errors, it will show you the error line number also. What is the error related to? Sometimes the error might not be, sometimes you might not be able to understand the error. But most of the times it will give you the explanation. What is the reason your program is failing or giving error? Fine? Okay, you can take a break for 5 minutes and then we'll be starting with the second unit. You can take a break for 5 minutes and then we'll be starting with the second unit. Okay, we'll start with the second unit. Application structure. The second unit is related to your application structure. The structure of an Android application is fairly rigidly defined. In this unit, you will be learning about the basic structure of an Android project and its major files and classes. So at the end of this unit, you will be able to understand, define activity and activity lifecycle, identify resources, identify R.java file, use Android manifest.xml file, build app using the Gradle. Fine. Android project structure. Some important files and some important files folders in the Android project structure are manifest, Java, RES and Gradle script. RES is nothing but the resources. I mean, in short, actual word is RES, but you can just call it as resources. Fine. But you can't use the word resources anywhere. So here you have the manifest file. Here you have the manifest file. Here you have the Java file, and here you have the RES folders, and here you have the Gradle script. Fine. So these are the four important components inside the Android project: your manifest file, your Java file, your RES file, and your Gradle script. Fine. Next, an activity is an application component that provides a screen which users can interact in order to do something, such as dial a phone, take a photo, send an email, or view a map. Each activity is given a window in which it draws its user interface. As I was explaining earlier, an activity is nothing but a file. An activity is nothing but which contains a Java file and a XML file. Right. So in the XML file or design file, you do all the designing. user interfaces, you need to create it over there. And we have the Java files where you can interact with the designs. So whatever you are seeing over here is nothing but the Java file, activity Java file, and activity layout file is present inside the RES layouts folder. If you see the previous one, you can see over here. So this is the XML file, and the corresponding Java file is this one. Fine. So both can be called as an activity, which will contain your Java file as well as your layout file. Fine. So whatever design you do inside this activity underscore main.xml file, and if you want to do the interactions, you need to do the interactions and write the code inside your main activity Java file. You see this naming conventions. Make sure you follow this naming conventions. See, here they are using activity underscore main. Likewise, here they are using main activity. Suppose you create a login activity, then give the Java file name as login activity and layout file name as activity underscore login. So we need to follow the naming conventions accordingly. So that's what is explained over here related to your activity. I'll be showing you practically after some time how to create an activity and all those things. So these are the lifecycle activities which are present. So here you can see that once an activity is launched, it will call the onCreate method, onStart method, and activity will be running. So after onStart, it can go for onResume. Fine. Once the activity is running, it can either go for onPause or onStop or onDestroy. So these are the stages. Once the activity is launched, it can either be create or start or resume. Once the activity is running, it can either be pause or stop or destroy. If it is pause, you can call the on resume. If it is stop, you can again call the on restart over here. Right? If the activity is stopped, it has to go, if it has to start, it has to go to on restart and on start. If the activity is paused, then it has to call the on resume. Fine. And if the activity is killed, then it has to call the on create, or else you can call the destroy to close the activity. So here you can see on create is called when the activity is first created. These are all the functions present inside the activity. OnStart is called when the activity is becoming visible to the user. OnResume is called when the activity will start interacting with the user. OnPause called when the system starts resuming a previous activity. OnStop is called when the activity is no longer visible to the user. Likewise, on restart and on destroy. Fine. So these are the functions present inside the activity, and it will be called accordingly by the Android operating system. We don't need to call all these functions. It will be called accordingly by the system. Next is the resources. I told you right, RES, or else you can call it as even resources also. RES folder is where all external resources for the application such as images, layout XML files, strings, animations, audio files, etc. are stored. So RES folder is a place where you put all these things like images, layout XML files. All the images should be there inside the drawable folder. All your activity XML files should be there inside your layout folder. All your menus should be there inside your menu folder. All your strings, styles, all these things should be present inside your values folder. Fine. So all are being categorized accordingly. So the first one is a drawable, which I explained you. The drawable folder contains the bitmap file to be used in the program. For example, your PNG, JPG, all these files, images. Layout resource. The layout file contains all the XML files that defines the user interface. Fine. Next is the menu resource. XML files that define menus in the application are stored inside this folder. Values resource. XML files that define simple values such as strings, arrays, integers, dimensions, colors, styles, everything is, all these things are placed inside this values folder within the dimensions. In dimensions, you need to place all your margins, dimensions, everything. And if you want to place your colors, everything, you can place it inside the styles. And if you want to place the arrays or integers or strings, you can place it inside the strings.xml file. Fine. So this is the values resource. The next one is your android.r.java file. R.java is an auto-generated file by Android Assist Packaging Tool AAPT that contains the resource IDs for all the resources of RES directory. Fine. Remember this one. R.java is an auto-generated file. Please never change anything inside this R.java file. If you are declaring a variable inside your design file, you do whatever you want. All those declarations will be made inside the R.java file. Suppose you declare a button. Suppose you declare a button in your layout file. You give a variable name for the button, and for that button there will be an auto-generated ID that will be created inside the R.java file. So never change the contents of this R.java file. It is the most important one. Whatever things you keep doing, everything keeps updating inside the R.java file. For example, again, if you put an image or if you put an audio file or whatever is it, for each and every image and each and every file, corresponding IDs will be generated inside the R.java file. Fine. So if you create any component in the activity underscore main.xml file, this is just an example, activity underscore main. This is just an example. Whatever XML files you create anything, ID for the corresponding component is automatically created in this file. So that's what I was saying. Inside this XML files, if you are doing any changes or if you are creating any controls, the IDs will be generated for all the controls. So this ID can be used in the activity source file to perform any action on the component. I'll be showing you these things again. The next is your Android manifest.xml. So this is one of the most important file in the Android project structure. So that's what I was explaining earlier. It is one of the most important file in the Android project structure. It contains all the information about your application. When an application is launched, the first file that the system seeks is the Android manifest file. It actually works as a roadmap of your application and the system. So that's what I was explaining earlier for you, right? Android manifest file is an important file that will be, used by your Android operating system. Whenever the app launches, it will look into this file. So all the permissions, everything needs to be put inside this file. So Android manifest file contains information about components of your application such as activities, services, etc. User permissions required, minimum level of Android API required. So you need to put all these three things inside your Android manifest file. User permissions I was explaining you right earlier. Like if you want to make use of internet, memory card, audio, microphone, all these things, if you want to make use of these things, you need to take permissions. Basically, you need to put the user permissions inside the app. So that's the reason you might have observed when you install the app, it will ask you for the permissions, or it will display a list of permissions. Like this app wants to use the internet, this app wants to use your memory card, this app wants to use your microphone, and also it will take the permissions, right? So whatever permissions you put, all those permissions will be put inside the Android manifest file. And also minimum level of Android API required. For this is basically for if you are targeting the Android app starting from 17 or 18, then you can make use of these things. Fine. Or else if you want to target your app only for Marshmallow onwards, then you can say the minimum level of Android API should be at 23 or 22, whatever is it, or like that. And if you want to target your app starting from KitKat onwards, then you need to specify the appropriate API version numbers. Fine. So this is the example for the user's permission. A basic Android application has no permissions associated with it by default. This means that it cannot do anything that will adversely impact user experience or any data on the device. So to make use of the protected feature of the device, you must include one or more users permission tags in your app manifest. So this is the syntax for using the permissions. Here permission Android name, where string is nothing but the permission name, and max SDK version, you need to put the version number over here. Yeah, I'll answer to all your questions, Smriti. HDPI is the high definition pixel image. See, Android runs on different devices, right? Different devices in the sense there are different screen devices. One is the tablets, one is the phones, smartphones, tablets. There are different devices, right? So each and every device might be having a different resolution. So what you need to do is you need to put different image resolution. Like for smartphones, you can put one kind of image, and for tablets or for phablets, you can put different kinds of images. So you need, this is HDPI is the high definition image. So if you are creating an image, you need to create all different kinds of images, high definition, low definition, so these kind of things. So did you get the answer for that HDPI? It's basically related to your images. So you need to create different images. So depending upon the system or depending upon the device, it will accordingly take the appropriate image from your application. If you don't put all those, if you don't put different images, then, and if you put only single image, then only the single image will be used by your app. Fine? Okay. The next question was the difference between the on stop and on destroy. So on stop, it is called when it is no longer visible to the user. See, on stop is nothing but you have closed the app. You have not closed the app, but the activity is behind the scenes. Remember this one. Activity is stopped. Remember, you may, for example, there may be login activity and the register activity, right? If you have completely closed the login activity, then the activity is not destroyed. It is actually stopped. Remember this one. The activity is stopped, but it is still present inside the memory. On destroy is, it is the final call which will be receiving before the activity is destroyed. What system does this? If the activities are not being used from long period of time, it will kill the activities. But before killing the activity, it will call the on destroy, so that you can, it is something like a destructor. You have constructor and destructor, right? When is the destructor called? Once the JVM, once the JVM deallocates the memory given for the program, only then the destructor is called, right? So same thing even here on destroy. On destroy is called before the activity is completely released from the memory. But on stop is just stopping the activity, but it is still being present inside the memory. Since it is present inside the memory, you can always invoke the activity back. So if you observe over here, you can see that on stop is there, right? So once the activity is stopped, you still have the provision to restart the activity. But if the activity is destroyed, you can't restart. Again, it has to go from beginning. Fine? But this on destroy is called just before the activity is completely removed from the memory. On stop is called, on stop, it just stops all the process inside that activity. It won't do anything. It is just idle. It is not even in the pause state. It is just idle. It is stopped all its process. So whatever variables was declared and whatever values was there inside that, everything will be cleared. So that's the reason it says once it is on stop, you need to restart everything from beginning for the activity. Fine? So user's permission. So that's what I was explaining over here. So here you need to put the version number. Here you need to put the API version number in this place. In this place, you need to put the API version saying that my app should run only greater than Lollipop or Marshmallow. Likewise, here you need to put the user's permission inside the string place. For example, like this, you need to put this string Android permission dot internet in this place. Fine. Gradle. Gradle is an automated build toolkit that allows the way in which projects are to be configured and managed through a set of build configuration files. The build process of Android project is being handled by the Gradle build system. So this Gradle build system it's a build process for the Android project. So all these Gradle files, see whatever you see over here. Whatever you see over here, all these are files which is related to your Android project. It will contain all the information about the project. Like what are the libraries which is being used, what is the settings, where is the SDK location. SDK location in the sense where is your Java, Java, that Java C and Java, where is the software present in your system, all your settings, all your Gradle related properties, your entire project configuration, your entire app configuration, your entire project configuration. So all those settings are present inside this Gradle files. And also if you have used some third-party libraries, even those third-party libraries also will be referenced from the Gradle scripts. Basically it keeps track of all the settings which you are doing inside your Android application, Android app. So if you create a new project in Android Studio, the Gradle build scripts are automatically created. Android Studio wraps the Gradle runtime, hence no additional installation is required. You don't need to do any installation for this one. It is automatically created when you create the Android Studio project. The Gradle build system is designed to support complex scenarios in creating different types of Android applications, such as multi-distribution. The same application must be customized for several clients or companies. Multi-APK, which supports the creation of multiple APKs for different device types by reusing parts of the code. So these are the two different concepts present. Apart from that, we have two levels. One is the top level build file and one is the module level build file. So here you can see, right, this build of Gradle project level and module level. So this top level build file contains the configuration options that are common to all the modules to make up the project. See, in the single Android Studio project, you might be having multiple modules. Remember this one. You might be having multiple modules. So for all the modules, it contains for all the modules the information is present inside this build of Gradle. Each module has its own Gradle build file that contains module specific build settings. For each and every module, it will be having a separate Gradle build file which contains the information of only about that particular module. So that is shown over here, build of Gradle module app. So this is at the module level and this is at the project level. The next is Gradle.properties file. The file contains configuration information for the entire project. It's empty by default, but wide range of properties can be applied to the project by adding them to this file. Remember this thing, it's not used more, but you can make use of this file. The file contains configuration information for the entire project. By default it is empty, but you can make use of the properties. Wide range of properties are there, so you can make use of those things and put inside this file. Settings of Gradle file. The file references all the modules that make up your project. If there are multiple modules, all those modules will be put inside the settings.gradle. It's basically referencing. And the last one is your local.properties file. This file tells the Android Gradle plugin where it can find the Android SDK installation. See, Android SDK is installed in a system, right? So that that path is being present inside this thing. So this Android Gradle plugin will say where is the Android SDK installation path. So just to give a recap of what we saw, some important files folders in the Android project structure are manifest, Java, RES and Gradle script. An activity is an application component that provides a screen with which the users can interact in order to do the something. All external resources for the application are stored inside the RES folder. R.java is an auto-generated file by AAPT that contains resource IDs for all the resources of RES directory. When an application is launched, the first file that system seeks is the Android manifest file. To make use of the protected features of the device, you must include one or more user permission tags in your app manifest. And the build process of Android projects is handled by the Gradle build system. Remember this one. If you have any doubts, you can ask now. So to create an Android Studio, I'll show you how to create an Android Studio project. So once if you have installed the Android Studio, you should be able to see this Android Studio icon. If it is not present, you can go for your program files. Inside your C drive, you can go for your program files, Android folder, inside Android Studio folder, and inside that you should be having the bin folder. So you should be able to see this Studio 64 Android icon. So just make a shortcut on the desktop. Fine. So you double click in this Android Studio icon. Double click on the Android Studio icon, it will open the Android Studio project. Okay, for me it is opening the existing project. I'll just close this one. So what happens over here is, if you have already opened the existing Android Studio project earlier and if you close the Android Studio, whatever was opened recently, it will open the same project. So I'll just close the project. So first time when you open the Android Studio, So first time when you open the Android Studio, you'll get this kind of kind of window. So here you create a new Android Studio project or open an existing Android Studio project. So here I'll create a new Android Studio project. So it will ask you for the application name. So it will ask you for the application name. So here you can give your application name. Maybe see the application. If I type in small letters, it will give the application name for most apps begins with uppercase letter. So just type it with the uppercase letter. I just give it as quiz app. Fine. Here you can give your company domain name, or else you can just give you can change even the package name, or you can also give your company name. Fine. Next, select the location where you want to create a project. I'll just give the location as I'll give the location as I'm storing all my projects inside the D drive. Fine. So select the location wherever you want. Click on next. So once you click on next, here you will get the provision to select the minimum SDK. So here I've selected the minimum SDK to be at API level 17. So once you select API level 17, you should see over here, by targeting API 17 and later, your app will be running on approximately 87.4% of the devices that are present, that they are active on the Google Play Store. Fine. So see here, if I select API 17, it is 87.4. If I select API 14, 97.4. But remember, the more less you select, it will be difficult to handle. Fine. So make sure you select the appropriate version numbers. See, most of them might not be having this ice cream sandwich and all those things, and some features might not work on the lower versions. So make sure you select the appropriate version numbers. So I'll be going for the API level 19 onwards, API 19 onwards. So if you say API 19, you'll be able to run your app on 73%, 73.9% of the devices. Fine. So phone and tablet are selected. Click on next. So here you need to select the empty activity. So give your activity name over here. I used to say, right, there is an activity which contains the two files. One is the layout file and one is the Java file. Layout is nothing but the XML file name, and Java is nothing, and other file name is the Java file name. So here you can give the Java file name. So by default, the Java file name is main activity and layout name is activity underscore main. Fine. So I won't change the name of it. I'll just click on finish. So it will start creating the project. Just wait for some time, it will start creating the project. It will take some time because the Gradle build scripts will be running. So just wait for some time. She will get these kind of errors. It's okay. Once the Gradle build script is finished, it will clear all the errors. Since the libraries are not loaded properly, it will give these errors. Yes, the project is created now. So we saw the few things, right? So you have the Android manifest file over here. Here you have the Java activities and also other files over here. Here you have the RES folder. Here you have the main activity file, which is nothing but the Java file, and here you have the activity file, which is nothing but the layout file. See, in my system, I repeat once more, in my system, I have not installed Java 1.8. I have installed Java 1.7. So it is telling me to open the Java 1.8, but I am not installed. So what I'll be doing is I'll be changing this to fine because I don't have Java 1.8 installed. In your case, if you have installed the latest version, then no issues. I don't have even 24 installed in my system. So I'll be changing everything to 23. See, this is the 23th version number. So my app cannot run on latest Android version because I am targeting my app only till API level 23. That's all. Once I make changes, it will give a sync now button over here. So click the sync now button and it will sync everything. Here, now I am getting the design. But in your case, you don't need to do all these things. Since you have installed the latest version, you won't get any errors. Even the latest Android versions, everything SDKs will be installed. Fine? Okay. So this is your main activity. Fine? So you can see the layout file. If you close everything, no issues. Inside your layout file, you have the activity underscore main file. So just double click on this, you'll open this file and the corresponding Java file. How do you know which Java file is associated with this file, layout file? If you have some 10 XML files and 10 Java files, it might be difficult to relate which Java file belongs to which XML file, which XML file belongs to which Java file, right? I mean, by seeing the name of the file, you can easily understand. But still, if you want to know, you can see over here, tools.context, it is present over here. So this XML file is related to this Java file. You can just press the control key and click on this. It will directly take you to this main activity. Fine. So here I'll just minimize this so that whenever I want, I can open this one. Unnecessary space is wasted, right? So I usually have a tendency to minimize all these screens so that I get enough space to write the code. So whatever code you write over here, immediately it will be showing you the design over here. Every time making a small change and every time running the app, it's very time consuming, right? It's time consuming. So just make the changes inside the file and it will show as much as possible over here. In few cases, you might need to run the app, but in few cases, you don't need to run the app. You can see directly the design over here itself. So whatever designs you see in this place, in this preview window, same view will be visible even in your apps. Fine. So these are the controls present inside your Android. There are lot of controls in Android. We'll be seeing each and every control, as time goes on. But for time being, I'll just explain you a few controls. Fine. So this relative layout is the parent control. Fine. This relative layout is the parent control. Don't worry about this relative layout. I'll be explaining it later. But for time being, you can understand this one. We have a text view control which is basically used for displaying the information. Fine. So in this text view, you can see that the message is displayed as hello world. So you can see the output over here. Probably I just zoom in. Here hello world. So instead of hello world, I'll say first Android session. See, so I made the changes over here, it immediately got reflected. I'll give the font size. So for specifying the text size, we have this text size attribute. So here I'll specify, some number 24 SP. You need to use this SP 24 SP, which is nothing but the pixel concept. Here the size changed. If I want the color, I can say text color, and I can make use of some colors over here. There are some colors. I can make use of this colors, or else I can give some hexadecimal code. See, I specified some hexadecimal code. I got this color over here. Fine. It's very easy. If you want to change the color, you can see what is this hexadecimal color code is already specified over here. If you want to make some alterations, just double click on this. You can select the colors. Here I can choose the color over here. Click on choose. It will change the color over here. So there are a lot of ways where you can change the colors. Fine. So I made some changes. Let me run the app. I'll run the app on my Android device. Just give me a second so that I can show my mobile screen. So this is my mobile screen. Okay. Fine. So what I'll do is to run the app. Okay. Before you run the app, make sure you have enabled the developer options, developer settings. Go for your settings. Go for your settings, and in the last, you should be able to see this developer options. Only if this developer options is present in your Android device, you can run your Android applications. Fine. And if you don't have this developer options in your mobile, what you can do is you have this about phone, right? Clicking on that about phone for 7 or 10 times. See now what I will do. I'll keep pressing. I can't show you my clicking, but I'll click on the about phone for 7 or 10 times. Here, I'll start to click now. 1, 2, 3. You need to do it very fast. Here, inside the about phone, you have this build number, right? So click on this build number. Sorry, not on the about phone. Click on this build number. Go inside the about phone and see this build number. Keep clicking on this build number. Here, it says no need. You are already a developer. I can't do it because the developer options is already enabled. Fine. Once you enable the developer options, make sure you turn on the developer options. Turn on this developer options, and you can also make this screen awake. If you are running the application, sometimes it will lock your screen. Every time you need to open the screen, right? So in that case, you can make this screen to be as awake. Next, you can enable this USB debugging. Enable this USB debugging. If you want to make sure that you enable this stay awake, it's better you select the stay awake and make sure that you turn on the developer options. Fine. Enable the developer options. That's it. So once you have done all these things, you'll be able to run your app on your device. So now I'll click on the start button. I will click on the start button and start running the Android application. I'll click on this. Once I click on the start symbol, it will show me all the devices connected to the Android Studios. Here it says Motorola. I have already connected my device, right? So this is showing Motorola over here. So click on OK. If you have connected multiple devices, it will show you all the connected devices. If you have enabled any emulators, it will show you all the emulators. I'll show you this emulator later, but you are connected to the device. Click on this device and click on OK. So it will start running the application. See, once you click on build, it is running. It will take some time. Just wait for some time. Think my mobile is not connecting, I guess. Disconnected. Okay. Just wait for some time. It is building the project. He's installing the APK now on the device. Here, once it starts to run, you will see this Android monitor, everything which opens up. Your app is opening up here. Yes, we have launched our first Android application on the Android device, right? See, again I can make some changes. I first started. I just changed some text over here. You are able to see the changes over here, but it is not yet implemented inside your app on your device. So if you want to make changes on your device, then you need to rerun the app. Once you rerun the app, it will close the application and open once more automatically. That's it. Changes are being done. So like this you can keep making changes. If you are satisfied with the screen design itself, you can leave it, or else you can run it on the apps. So this is how you run your apps on the devices. Fine. Next, if you want to run your Android applications on the emulator, you have this AVD manager. Click on this AVD manager. I have already created one emulator. You can create one more emulator. Here there are a lot of devices available. So select any one of the device, click on next. Again, for that particular device, I can select any one of the operating system. Fine. I can select the operating system. I can click on next. So now here I have selected Nexus 6 with Marshmallow 6.0. So if you want to change any of the things, if you want to give a name for it, you can give a name. After doing everything, click on finish. It will create the emulator. Fine. Once you have created the emulator, you will see an option over here. If you want to start the emulator, click on this. It will start the emulator. But only thing is, it will take some time for starting the emulator. To run the applications also, it will take some time. Fine. So that's the reason initially I told you to run the Android applications on the Android devices. So this is how you configure your ABD for running your applications on the Android virtual devices or the emulators. And you need to do one more thing. You need to update your SDK manager. Here you should be able to see your SDK manager. Open this SDK manager. You should see the standalone SDK manager. Click on this launch standalone SDK manager. You can see that it will open up this window. If you see that here I have installed till Android 6.0 Marshmallow. I have not installed this Android Null or Android 6.xn. I have not done over here. I have installed only till Android 6.0, which is nothing but till API level 23. Fine. So if you want, you can update all the things. Here there are some basic tools. It says not install. If you have already installed, it will say update is available, and whatever is installed it will show you over here. Here it says Android 7.1 API level 25. It's not installed. So you can select all these things whichever you want to install. Likewise for Android and API 24. I have not installed over here. I've installed only till API level 23. Here for API 23, I've installed this SDK. So if you want to install, you can select only this. Don't install everything. You know, it might take more space. So what you can do is select only this SDK platform. Select only this SDK platform. Select the documentation for it. Select the documentation. Select the Google API. Fine. Select the Google API. It's enough. And if you want to run it on your emulators, then select this Android Wear, not Android Wear. EABI, where is that? Yeah, this one. If you want to run it on the emulators, you need to select this option. If you are running it on the mobile devices, then it's not required. But anyways, you just install these things. Fine. So install all these things and select all these things and click on install packages. Once you click on install packages, it will show you all the things which you have selected. So click on accept license and click on install. It will take some amount of time to download and install inside your system. So until that you wait for some time. Fine. And make sure you have the internet connection because it will download and install the packages. Fine. So this is the place where you download and install all the SDK packages. Fine. So you have SDK manager, you have APD, all these things. And also I showed you like how to run a application. Do you have any doubts over here till here? Like how to create the project and so on. And also I have explained you, I'll also be giving you images. Here installation, I will also be sharing you this images. So installation of Android Studio I have put inside this folder. How to create a new project, how to create the emulator, how to update all your SDKs, libraries, everything, how to create a new project, everything I have explained you over here. So if you see, all the images are there. So you can also refer to these images if you have any doubts. I'll be sharing you at the end of the session these things. See, if you are not comfortable with the Android emulator, you have something called as Genymotion, which is a paid one, but they give you one emulator free. This emulator is a third-party emulator which works more fast compared to your default Android Studio emulator. I repeat once more, compared to your default Android Studio emulator, there is one more software called as Genymotion. So you can install this Genymotion software and open up the emulator. It is slightly faster and they give you one emulator free. So just try it with that one. If you are, if you want that one, you need to have idea about all these things. So just giving you the general knowledge. I'll be sharing you these images. Is it fine? Okay. Now what I'll do is I'll put a button over here. Fine. So instead of text, I'll go for my design window. I'll click on this design and I'll go for my design window. See, if I go for my design window, I'll get this palette window. Inside this palette, I have all these controls. So these are all nothing but the Android controls over here. Fine. And each and every control has its own properties. See, if I select this text view over here, you'll see all these properties over here. See, here itself I can change the size. Instead of 24, I can make it to 20. See, it will immediately reflect. Instead of typing the code over here, you can directly edit the attributes. But what I would suggest to you all is, please don't use this feature. Try to write the code. The reason why I am telling you to write the code is, you will remember these property names, attributes names, what is the value to be given. If you manually just, if you just come over here, okay, I'll change the color over here. I know it's very simple, but you won't remember these attribute names, right? So, I mean, once you become experienced, once you are comfortable, then you can make use of these things. But initially when you are learning, I would strongly suggest you to write the code. Only if you write the code, you will remember it. So that's the reason I am suggesting you all to write the code. If you don't remember, if you forget the attribute names, probably you can just come over here, okay, text color is, probably you might forget this color word, right? So you can come over here, just note down this name, come to this text and type the code over here. Fine? Okay, after this text view, I'll put a button over here. So what I'll do is I'll just do a drag and drop. See, you have this button over here. So I'll drag and drop to the center of the screen. See, once I drag and drop to the center of the screen, it will remain over here. I can change the text either over here or else I can come back from, see, if I change over here, automatically the coding also gets generated. See, this button was not there, right? I just did a drag and drop from here to here and I changed the values over here. So immediately the coding is generated. Since your coding is generated, you don't need to remember the code, right? So you might forget the thing. So that's the reason I told you to type the code for some days, so until you get comfortable. Fine. So now I'll run the app. I've just put a button. Let me run the app. Okay, I think, sorry, I forgot to show the screen. Yeah, the app is running here. I just put a button and you can see the button over here. Now if I click on this button, nothing happens. See, I am clicking on the button, nothing is happening. Fine. So, now if I want to perform some action, if I want to perform some action based on this button, then you need to give a variable name for this. To give a variable name, type Android :id. See, for each and everything, Android word should be present. Fine. For each and every attribute, the Android word should be present. Android :id. I select ID. Okay, sorry. ID is already there. Android :id. This is how you give the variable name. Android :id. Usually you say int A, int B, right? Likewise, in this XML file, if you want to declare the variable name, you need to give like this. Android :id equals to @+id / your variable name or your control name. Fine. So I just say btn click. Fine. Okay. Instead of that, btn login. Fine. So this is the common thing which you should always use. And here is the control name. But the remaining things are the syntax which you need to follow. Fine. So I'll give the variable name for this control. I'll come back for my Java file. Inside this Java file, there is onCreate function. Inside this onCreate function only, I need to write the code. So here, I need to get the reference of the control first. Button btn. I can use the same name or else I can use a different name. So btn equals to find. I should use this find view by id r.id.btn login. Here r is nothing but the Java file. Here it's giving an error. If you place the cursor over here, it says incompatible type because this function is returning a view. Here the return type of this function is view. The return type of this function is view, but you are storing the view inside the button, which is not possible. So you need to do a typecasting, explicit typecasting. Here I need to convert this view into a button. Now the reference is there inside this btn. I can use the same name or else I can use a different name. Fine. Button. Now whenever the user clicks on that one, I should do some action, right? So in that case, I need to register the click event. So you need to say button dot set on click listener. There is a listener interface called that. Sorry, there is a function called the set on click listener. You need to make use of this set on click listener. Click on this, and you need to pass the parameter. The parameter is it's already showing you over here. The parameter should be as on click listener. So you need to say new on click listener. So don't manually type the code. Just type on click. Just type ON. It will show you this IntelliSense. So select the option and press enter. The code will be automatically generated. Fine. The code will be automatically generated. Fine. I'll show you once more. Button dot set on click listener. Now you need to pass the click listener over here. New on click listener. Select the option and press enter. It will automatically generate the code. Don't type this code manually. If you type the code manually, you might make mistakes. So let it auto generate. Fine. Let it auto generate. So now whenever you click on the button, this particular function is called. So here you are implementing the interface. This is the interface. On click listener is the interface. So inside this interface there is a function which has been overridden, which is nothing but the on click. So whenever the user clicks on the button, this particular function is called. So inside this function, what I'll do is inside this function I can display a toast message. There is something called as toast, which we'll be seeing it later. But for time being, you can use this. Toast is used for displaying the messages. So toast.makeText is a static function. MakeText is a static function. So here, first parameter is you need to pass the current application context reference. So to get the current application context reference, use this function get application context. It's a built-in function. So get application context, comma your message. I just give you clicked me and the duration toast dot. You either can select toast long, length long or length short. I'll select length long. After that, show function. So this is the library. Toast is just a library which you can make use of it for displaying the toast message. In few of the apps you might have seen the toast messages get displayed in the bottom of the screen, right? So you can make use of this toast messages. So now I'll rerun the app. Here, so now if I click on the click me button, you should get a toast message as you clicked me. Let me click on this button. Here I got a toast message. You clicked me. That's it. So again, if you click, you'll get the same toast message. The toast message will be there for some time. After that time, it will make it invisible. It won't be there. Fine. So whatever code you write inside this on click, that particular code will be executed. It's not that you can write only one line of code. You can write as many as lines you want. Fine. Now I'll show you one more thing. See, by default, what is the text which is there? It says first Android session started, right? So now when I click on this button, I should change this text dynamically. When I click on this button, I should change this message dynamically, and also I should display the source message. So in that case, I need to access this control inside the Java file. In that case, you need to give a variable name for this. Here for button there is a variable name, right? But for this text view there is no variable name. So you need to get you need to declare the variable. I just say LBL name. Fine, or else LBL result. I'll just give a variable name. Fine, come back for your Java file. Anywhere, either before or after, you can get the reference. First, you need to get the reference of the control. Text view. The reason why I'm using text view is because here we are using text view control. So whatever variable name you're using, the same reference should be fetched. So text view, I can use the same name or else I can use a different one. So again, I need to do the typecasting. Remember one thing, this is the variable name present inside my XML file, right? And this is my Java variable name. It's not compulsory that this variable and this variable should be same. You can use whatever names you want. You see it doesn't make any sense, right? It's not giving any meaning. Even if we declare like this, it won't give you any error. Still it is correct. But usually what we do is we try to give the same name so that it will be easy to understand. Right. So LBL result. Inside this I'll say LBL result dot set text string change dynamically when clicked on. I'm just giving some message. So when this button is clicked, instead of first Android session started, it will display this string over there. Fine. It's giving an error over here. It's saying that LBL result is accessed from inner class, needs to be declared as final. Since you are accessing this variable within this inner class, this is an inner class, right? Since you are accessing this variable from the within inner class, you can't do this. So you need to declare this variable as final. Only if you declare the variable as final, you can access the controls within this events. If not, you can't access it. Here, I'll comment this line. I can say over here, I can do it like this. Here it won't give me any error because I'm in the current scope itself. Right? I'm in the same function. It won't give any error. But since I'm accessing this control within this function, it will give me the error. So that's the reason you need to say it as final. Still you can access the function. Still you can access the variable name outside also. But still you can access it outside. Only thing is, if you are accessing the control inside the on click, then you need to declare this variable as final. Fine. So now I'll rerun the app. Yes. Now this message is first Android session started, right? Now when I click on this click me button, it should change the message over there. Here, the string got changed as well as the message is getting displayed. So we are changing the things dynamically through Java. Fine? You have any doubts? You have any doubts till here? So whatever I taught you today, you can just go through everything and also start creating new projects and do some experiments like this. Fine. In the next session, we'll be starting with the Android controls. See, right now I just showed you two Android controls. One is the text view. Where is that? Okay. One is the text view control and one is the button control. Probably you can also experiment one more thing. Before I explain itself, you can experiment one more thing. There is something called as edit text. Here, I'll put this edit text. I'll use this edit text for getting the information from the user. You can probably experiment. I'll be explaining you all these controls once more from beginning, but for time being, you can understand these things. You can just experiment this button, edit text and text view. Here, I can start typing. So this control is used for fetching the information from the user. This control is called as edit text. To display the information, you can make use of text view. For doing some actions, you can make use of the button control. So these three controls probably you can experiment. Same thing, if you want to get the reference of the control, I'll show you one thing now. I'll get the reference, okay. What I'll do is, I'll get the reference of the control. Fine. Next, whatever I have typed, I display inside this variable. Fine. Instead of this variable, I'll say edit text dot get text dot to string. So whatever you have typed, it will display it inside the toast message as well as inside the text view control. Fine. Now I type something over here. Fine. I've typed something. Now I'll click on this button. So whatever I've typed, a toast message needs to be displayed, and same thing needs to be displayed inside the top text view. I'll click on this here. Whatever I've typed, it's displaying over there. Now I'll change the text. Fine. Now I'll click on this click me button once more. Here, it's changing the text. Now, if I want to clear the text after it has been changed, after you have set the text, edit text dot set text, make it empty. So after you have displayed, you can clear the edit text control. Here I'll type something. Fine. Now I'll click on this button. Here, whatever was there inside this edit text, it is displaying over here and it is clearing the edit text. Fine. Now again I click on this. Every time it is overwriting, right? So you can experiment all these things. Fine. And also I'll explain all these controls again from beginning. But just for experimental purpose, in this one page for y'all, you can experiment all these three controls. Start, create a project, use these three controls in different scenarios. You can also create a calculator. I mean, you can do a simple applications using these controls. Fine. Any doubts still here? Okay, just give me some 2-3 minutes. I'll share you the source code also. Whatever application I created now, and also the photos and also the images, I'll be sharing you a link so that you can download all those things. Just give me 2 minutes so that I'll share you the link. Fine? So you can download the images and the sample project which I created now from this link. Each and every session I'll be giving you whatever I'm doing. Fine. This is the link. I'll also share the link in the chat window. You can download the images, whatever I was explaining, and also the sample project from this link. Did everyone get the link? Did everyone get the link? Can you please reply? Did everyone get the link? Okay. See, copy that link. Here, I'll copy this link inside the browser. Just paste the link. Inside your browser, just paste the link. It will download the zip file. It will download the zip file. So you need to extract the zip file. It will download, and once it download, you need to extract it. Fine. Download the file and extract. Inside it, once you extract, you will get some 3 folders: images and other things, as a sample project. So if you have any doubts, you can write the mail to the support email ID. Fine. So that we'll be able to reply to your queries. And remaining things we'll be seeing in the next session. Is there anything else to be asked? That you need to contact the support email. Just write an email to them so that they'll reply for these things. Whatever I've done, it's been recorded. So you will get the recorded links also so that you can see these videos later. I think probably they might be sending you the links of the recorded sessions. Thank you for attending the session. Have a great day.